Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Three Principles Global Community. The Three Principles Global Community, also known as 3PGC, is a nonprofit organization that's committed to bringing an understanding of the three principles to people throughout the world. Today, we are with Marina Galan. Marina Galan lives with her family in Querétaro, Mexico, where she has been sharing the principles for the last few years with clients from all walks of life. Marina is committed to bringing a deep understanding of the human experience to Spanish speakers worldwide, but especially to the underprivileged and challenged communities in Latin America. She volunteers her free time teaching in public schools, addiction rehabilitation centers, and communities facing all kinds of hardship. And Marina's topic today is It's Not About Me. I am just going to say that I have recently had some absolutely lovely conversations with Marina, and so I'm so excited to have another one today. So thank you so much for being here with us, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Bonnie. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a privilege. It's an honor. And in my mind, when Bonnie asked me a few months ago if I would do a webinar here, it was like a no-brainer. It was like an instant yes. And then I forgot about it for the longest time. And a few weeks ago, when she messaged me and said, okay, what's your topic? I had absolutely no idea. And I got all up in my head and I started having all kinds of insecure thinking about how did I ever think I could do something like this? I'm way in over my head. But as I felt the loudness growing in me, I suddenly just overheard myself say, it's not about you. It's not about me. And that made me remember so many other times in the last few years since I came to the principles, when that insight came, like, it is not about you, and how everything fell in that precise moment. And it's interesting to me how we really believe that everything in life is about us. Not only because it is what we have been taught to believe, but because we have every evidence to convince us of that as well. And the conditioned mind plays such a big role in convincing us that is how it is. And yet every time we fall out of our thinking into a space of consciousness and just awareness, we so clearly see in that moment that it really, really, really is not about us. And that seems to me to be an invitation to fall into grace, where everything is already given, where everything is already being taken care of for us, where everything is already a gift. And we are absolutely free to do anything we wish with it. But in that moment, when we stop and we look around and we become present to what is, we necessarily fall away from ourselves. And I think it's a beautiful way to look at it, you know, when you fall away not only from your thinking, but from yourself, because you detach yourself from every attachment you could have, or from every fear you could have, or from every rejection you could have around what is already present. And you get out of your own way, and you then enter a new relationship with life in which you are in relationship with life and not with the concepts you have about it, where you are in relationship to life flowing through you and not you trying to make something out of it. I was reflecting earlier this morning about the variety of topics in which it is not about me has been the savior, has been the coup de grâce, the hit of grace right between the eyes. And I can honestly tell you, I have remembered so many different scenarios that apparently have nothing to do one with the next or the other. And yet that one thing has inevitably separated me from them all. It has not allowed for any of my conditioned beliefs around the situation stick when it is not about me. So for example, today, when it is not about me being here and it is about just being in service to you guys, or when I remember one of the first big insights I had when I came to the principles was around my children. And I realized that bringing them up was not about me. It was not even about them. My only role was to love them. It was not even to raise them or educate them or form them. Life takes care of that. I am just here to love them and love them in absolute freedom. Because just like it is not about me in one level, it is also not about them in another level. We just get to be companions for a few steps of the way, and we are held together by love. But it is not about us. And this just made me think of a quote I found yesterday by Khalil Gibran that said, you can give others your love, but you cannot give them your thoughts because they have their own. And the first implication I saw when I read that was that, oh, right, so we each have our thoughts, but if he's making the distinction between that and love, it is because we do not each get to have our love. It is just one whole, alone thing that we get to share and that we get to witness constantly if we allow to see that it is not about us and we agree to fall away from ourselves. For me, the experience of realizing that it is really not about me immediately brings me to the present and brings me to presence in the present. It opens me up to a deep state of grace in which I don't need to do anything. I don't need to figure anything out. I don't need to pursue anything or accomplish anything. I just need to see what is already there. And with what is already there is always perfect, always complete, always whole. And as I fall into that realization, I enter a new relationship with life in which I get to help it be just as it helps me be. We become a sort of, like accomplice. Life becomes my accomplice and I become its accomplice. and we get to do really cool stuff together. Which again will not be about me. I am just the conduit. I am just the vessel. And I sometimes think of it as, you know, the bank of the river through which the river flows. It has absolutely no saying in the flowing of the river. And yet it shapes the river, and the river shapes it at the same time. So it gets to be a collaboration. But there is absolutely no interference. And the bank of the river will never decide where the river goes, because it is formed by the river, for the river, and because of the river. And it is not about it, it is about the river. And you know, in times of tribulation and despair, when we get to remember in those times that it really is not about us, it frees us up from that as well, and allows us to see it in a completely new way, in which there is just freedom and opportunity. And I am very aware that this is all sounding very abstract, because you can really not talk about it except like this, or get it into a very specific situation. But because it is not about me, it is about what is happening now through me and through you, and is getting to be present here, and it is inviting us into its presence here. I would really like to hand it over to you and see how it really is not about me, and it is not about us. That has been my journey so far with it. But I keep, every time I remember it, is a remembering, and is at the same time it's a confirmation. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. And it just opens everything up, you know. And then I leave the games in life, and I become part of the game of life, which are very different. In the games in life, we get to make up, and we get to invent stuff like success and failure, and I don't know, beauty and popularity and disgrace and etc. But when we fall out of that and we see that it is not about us, then we leave that game and we become part of the game of life, which is only ever about consciousness and expansion and possibility. And that is the real invitation. And the one thing that brings me to tears every time I remember that is that whenever I leave the games in life and I become part of the game of life, I align myself with the purpose of something much, much bigger than me. I align myself with the purpose of life. If I am the way in which the universe meets itself, and it is my real essence, I cannot escape it. So it is happening all the time, whether I am aware of it or not. Regardless, I can be lost in the games inside life And the expansion of consciousness and the awareness is still happening. With or without me, it is still happening in the background. But when I become aware of it, it kind of amplifies. It seems to me that it just grows exponentially, you know? And I was talking to someone about how energy and atoms and particles of light change their behavior when they are observed, and they go from flowing into a wave, like in some sort of a fan form or something like that. And when they try to trick them into thinking they are being observed and they are not really being observed, it's mayhem, and then they start doing all sorts of crazy things. And so I was wondering about that, and I started seeing how, well, yeah, becoming aware of it intensifies it, and then it makes it allows for the collaboration then, and it allows for it to deepen. And that awareness impacts it again and affects it again, and it affects me again and expands the awareness again. And so you enter this spiral of just ever growing grace and beauty and opportunity and consciousness with everything that is. And as soon as we inevitably, again, get lost in the, oh yeah, but it's about me thing. You know, for me, it's been really evident lately how we are a process of consciousness that includes a process of judgment. And it seems to me that that's pretty much everything thought does. It just judges, you know, it polarizes stuff and it turns it into opposites. You know, like good and bad and light and darkness and heavy and light, and there is no truth in that separation. There is no truth in that polarization. Truth is beyond that. This territory where judgment is taking place, where polarization is taking place, this is the territory of me, where there is a right and a wrong. But beyond that territory, which is the territory of truth, where I do not exist, because then there is no separation and I cannot exist as separate there. That is the invitation. That is the remembering. That is the space of home. And to me, every time I feel, because the thing with judgment and polarization is that you don't always see it, but you always feel it. You feel it. And as soon as there is emotion, it is telling you that you are in judgment. And when you are in judgment, you cannot be in love. And so judgment and the feeling of it, the emotion of it, is the real invitation, is the reminder of it is not about you. And so for me, wisdom is always communicating with me through feeling, saying, remember, it is not about you. And that allows me to go beyond that territory and enter a state of consciousness, of pure awareness, of love and presence with truth, without me. So yeah, over to you. Are there any questions? Are there any comments? Maybe it is about you now.
If you have a question or a comment, you can unmute yourself. There's a little microphone in the lower left-hand corner of the screen.
That was lovely. Thank you. I guess what's interesting to me is that what I've seen is that when it's about me, whatever I'm attempting in the moment, whenever it's about me, it usually comes with some kind of judgment, as you say. When it's about me, it's about the self that I think is separate. And when I really believe that I am a separate self, then I want to protect it. You know, I think it needs protection. I think it needs improving. I think it needs helping. It needs not to be embarrassed. It needs not to be shamed. And all that gets in the way of what the moment needs. All that gets in the way of life creating through me. It's the dam in the middle of the river that's stopping it. And as soon as I get a sense, and that doesn't always happen, that it's about me, and I can go beyond the idea of me, then the dam breaks. And all those feelings, all those judgments, all those, that sense of trying to protect myself flows away with the river in between the banks, off to the sea. And it happens so often that it's about me before I'm about to do whatever I'm about to do. I used to, as a musician, I used to get so nervous and so worried before playing or recording or whatever it was. I used to be physically sick. But over time, it never went away, but I knew that as soon as I sat down to play, literally as soon as the music started, the dam would go. That was a knowing in me for years, but I didn't realize what it was. I thought that was just something to do with music. I did not realize that that was every single life situation in every single moment. That was possible, to open myself up to being so in the moment. I just let it carry me. So I really love what you said about the river, because that really makes sense to me. But when it's about me, it's about something that is an illusion. And when I see that, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. You know, it's like the invitation to look at the difference between what is without me and whatever I make up. Whatever we make up is filled with insecurity because the very essence of ego is separation. It cannot enter oneness and remain as an ego. And so the prospect of dissolving in oneness is terrifying to it. But that's just because it doesn't know that oneness necessarily includes it. It necessarily integrates it because it is oneness. And we are in the world of paradoxes again, because how can oneness include separation? But that's how it is. And it's like the loop that gets you out and brings you in again, which is exactly what happens to us. You know, like we go into that small self that is terrified and that needs to prove and create and accomplish and attain. And then we fall out of it again, inevitably. And it is not something we do, it is something that happens because that's how it is. We get lost in what isn't, and then grace comes and shows us that it is included also. And then we find another new way of making up something that says, oh, wait, no, I am not part of it. And then grace comes again and says, no, guess what? You are included also. You know, and it's just endless salvation, endless inclusion, endless integration. And that is love in action, you see? That is love in action, just allowing you to create whatever you can come up with, and then showing you that it is included in it as well. And setting you free to create another illusion again. And saving you from that one and including it as well and setting you free again. And God, it's humbling and overwhelming at the same time. You know, I remember reading somewhere that we are always either in love or in a call to love. And that's it. That's just it. When we go into our thinking and our judgment and we make it about us, we are in a call to love. And then the call itself brings love and it is brought forward and dissolves the illusion. Right? And what you're saying about as soon as the music started, all that would fall away. To me, that is just proof that whatever is real, and I am not making up, is the present moment, is what is now. And so as soon as you enter now, you fall away from it. You cannot think about your present, you see? It is not thinkable. You can perceive the present and you can flow in the present, but you cannot think about it. It's like the material of thought, the thing it can create with is the past. Even when it is projecting it into the future or the possible futures, it's just the past. But as soon as you fall out of that into the present, well, you stop feeling that made up. You know, and I really like how language helps us, because you see how, when you say, I have made up my mind, you know, I have made a decision between the two opposites. And you are literally saying, you are making up your mind. I have made up my mind. You are making it up. It is not part of truth. It cannot be. Truth will never be about one side or the other. So yeah, you come into the present moment and everything else falls away. And that is why creation is such a cool thing, because you cannot create except now. And you, all your senses are just here, and your attention is with them. So you cannot go anywhere else. And at the same time, you are free to go anywhere else, because it will include that too, inevitably. Thank you. Come on, guys, it is not about you.
I love what you've been saying so far, and really love the metaphor of the river. It's very helpful to see that. I don't know if you're going to remember this, but in a previous conversation that we had, you were saying how you saw everything that happens is like a love letter from life to you. Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to share that. That was so beautiful.
Sure. Yeah, so that was, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago or 4 years ago. And I was out in the fields walking, and I was reflecting on this. Well, now is everything that is, and I was remembering how in quantum physics they say that reality is not a continuum, like it exists and then there's like a pause and then it exists again. It's like, you know, like the frames in a movie, and it's just our perception that makes it look like a continuum, but there's just the moment and not, and the moment and not. And so I was remembering a question that my son asked me about, so when does evolution take place? You know, once every how long? How long do we have to wait for it to happen again? And it was like, no, well, it's happening now. And I was trying to fill my head or empty my head so all this could enter it. And I suddenly saw that for everything to come into life again at every moment, the amount of energy that would require was tremendous, and I could not conceive it. It was so huge, I could not conceive it. And I saw that the only energy capable of doing that would be love. And so I saw that there was such will behind everything that is now, like wanting to be again exactly that, and then wanting to be that again exactly that way. And so I remember I started looking around, and I could see the trees and the leaves and the animals, and and I could see how all this energy was just wanting to be again here, there, in that moment for me. And so, yes, every single thing in the universe in that moment became an evidence of love. And because I was there to witness this as a process of consciousness, it was for me. So it was like a love letter from the universe, just to let me know that it was there. Again, and again, and again. And it was so overwhelming, and I cried for like 3 or 4 days, and everything I saw, the curtains, the light bulbs, the lamp, everything I saw was just love, and it was just an overdose of love all over. That day changed everything. That day changed everything, because it has never gone back to anything else. It just continues to be love. And I forget, and then I remember, and every time I remember, it's like a holiday. It's like a party day. It's a cause for celebration. So yes, everything there is love, whether it's in the physical or not in the physical, or in the form or not in the form. Everything that is just the energy of love being manifest one way or the other for you. Even though it is not about you, it is for you to see, for you to become aware of it. And then that for me became a way of seeing how, again, love in action, coming into a form as an act of love to be perceived with my senses in the form, and then perishing to remind me that it is not, that the love is not in the form, it is in the formless. And so both the coming into form and the going back into the formless became love as a verb. And both for me, like, so I could experience it in the form, and so that I could remind it that it was really in the formless, the source, the origin. And I've had a few conversations with people, around loss, and how loss, when you can see it like that, it's love in action, reminding you that it is not in the form, reminding you to go back to the formless, to go back to the source and feed from it there. Again, it takes it away from you, and it allows for you to enter like a completely new level of agreement with life and with what is, with circumstance, with what is not only outside, but with what is also inside. We are so fast to judge everything, especially our own judgments, you know. And as soon as we become, so you see, we go into the judgment and then we fall into love. And then we go into the judgment and become aware of the judgment and are so tempted to judge the judgment and fall into the judgment again. And yet everything that is just a reminder of love. But we get so lost. We get so lost. And we stop seeing it. Sometimes I joke with my kids and I tell them creation happened the other way around. You know, he created us first and then created everything else just to remind us. Remind us of our true nature. Remind us of what we really are. Remind us of where to look. Remind us that there is the beauty of the experience itself, but there is also the beauty of the loss of the experience in the form and the going back to rest in the form. Because form gets tiring. It really does. You know, it weighs. The concepts we make up about ourselves end up weighing us down, like Steph was saying, you know, and when they fall away, we feel the expansion, we feel the and it's the same thing in a different level, you know, the death of the form. It's exactly the same thing. Oh, and I remember a quote by Facundo Cabral that says, life does not take away anything from you, it just frees you of things. But in order to see that, you just have to see that it is not about you, although it is, because you are the process of consciousness that is into it all. It is not just about the you that you have made up, that you are in the game of life. Was that it? Funny?
Yes, and such a beautiful experience. You just reminded me of a phrase I heard someone say, that we are significantly insignificant.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And you know, I keep going back to that word collaboration, because it is not only life serving us, it is also us serving life, and it runs both ways. You know, when we are in service of life happening through us, life makes sure that we get shaped in the most beautiful way possible, because that's what it does. Because if everything is energy of love, and you know how energy can only behave at its best the whole time, regardless of the form it has or the manifestation it is being presented in. It can only always excel. So collaborating with that, you can't go wrong, can you? You can't go wrong. You open yourself to it, and by that opening, you reach your highest potential, your highest expression, your highest possibility. So your very insignificant humanness is the one thing that infuses that unbelievable energy flowing through you and impacting everything you come in contact with, inevitably. and you cannot escape it. And the less it is about you, like Steph said, like the more easily it flows through you, if you get out of your way. Does that make sense? Yeah. Thank you for your question, Bonnie. That is true. We had that conversation. Anyone else has anything to say about all this? Hi, Thomas.
It's amazing. I forgot about myself. So I don't know. It's like sharing this vast space. Just, yeah, beautiful. Looking to see, looking to see more, not more, looking to see like connection.
Yeah. You know, Thomas, that day that I suddenly saw that all there is was now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like really,
Mm-hmm.
like really.
Mm-hmm.
Now is all there is. That's it. I heard this question in my head. You know, like, well, if now is all there is, then what are you? And I understood myself as now. And that had never happened to me before. You know, like, and for a second, I thought I was understanding myself as time. And then I saw that, oh, right, no, now is outside of time. Now is the only thing that does not exist in time. And like we tend to think about eternity from the beginning, and then, you know, it just goes on and on and on and on, and there is no end. But the thing is, eternity is outside of time. It is now, here. That's the only possibility. So when you suddenly understand yourself as now, I don't know about you, but it feels huge. You know, it feels like I just fall away. I just crack open, and life is just bursting. I mean, look at now. You know, like if you could go outside right now and look up and say, okay, now, and imagine all the galaxies that are on top of you right now.
Actually, what comes to mind was I thought of myself being in the now when I was cooking earlier today. Then my daughter called me, and like I finished my cooking, and then now was done. And I forgot myself. I didn't see myself doing the cooking. That was the now, but it was then. And like when, get aware of it.
Yeah.
Sort of like,
Yeah, so we tend to
lose
see
yourself.
ourselves like I am present in the now, but there is separation in that.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is I and there is the now, and now we are together and now we're not together. But when you suddenly I don't know. I don't know if I don't even know if the right word is identify, because the identity is made up. But you know what I'm talking about. Like you just see everything as one now, and you are it. Like you are it.
Mm. Mm.
There is nothing else to do. What can you do with now?
I don't know. It's like, yeah, it's the feeling.
Mm-hmm. I constantly go back to that the words of Anthony de Mello. Like enlightenment is absolute collaboration with the inevitable. And I sat for weeks with that question, asking, like, what is the inevitable? And it sounded so out there in the future, like how can we prevent the inevitable? And what is the inevitable? And what is coming? And then one day I suddenly realized that the inevitable was just now.
Mm.
That
Can you
is
say
the only
something?
really inevitable.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
something shifted somewhere. I don't know where or how, when I don't know became sort of empty of everything and it fills you up, sort of. I cannot explain it with words, but when it's that like expectancy somehow, or like some sort of bubbly joy, knowing somehow, knowing in the not knowing that, yeah, instead of that empty, like looking for things to fill it up, just comes. And it's that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes sense, but
No, it does. It makes perfect sense. Like it's just here and it's just that, and it happens. Yes.
thank you so much.
Thank you,
Beautiful.
Rama. It's so good to see you.
Same.
Verena, I just unmuted you.
You just what?
Verena
Oh,
raised her hand.
hi, Marina.
Hi, Marina. That's really lovely to listen to you, and I have to make a confession. Um, for me, it's like I am listening, and I can feel you, and I can understand it, and it's so touching. And then in the next moment, I'm like, I don't understand the word. I don't know. It's like, what are you talking about? And I try to understand again, and then after a while, when I'm lucky, then I'm back in this understanding, and it feels like a really lovely, warm, comfy blanket somehow. And then in the next moment, I'm out again, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Do you know what I'm? Yeah.
Oh, yes. That's exactly what we are talking about.
Okay.
That is exactly what we are talking about. When you think it is about you and you need to understand it, you lose it. It slips out of your hands.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's true.
And when you just surrender to it, it comes to you in a different way.
Yeah. And when I try to make myself surrender, it doesn't work somehow, unfortunately.
No. No, and I like that word, Marina, surrender.
Mm.
You know, when I hear the word surrender, I always think of offering. You know, like when I surrender is I offer myself. I offer myself to what is.
Mm. Yeah, that's beautiful. Mm.
And again, when I offer myself to what is, it makes it not about me, because I am taking myself out of the equation.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Mm.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
But I really like that your doubt is the experience that you are having is exactly what we are talking about. And so you see, you get to understand it in your experience, not here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not the most pleasant one when I'm, kind of out of it and I'm like, eh?
Yes,
Mm,
exactly.
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, true.
And
Thank
they
you.
are the dance between the two is inevitable all the time.
Mm,
So it's not like, oh, what is she saying? What, I don't understand. How do I go back? It's, you can't.
mm,
You cannot think your way back to it.
mm.
You have to give
Absolutely.
up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
this, what you said, offering myself to life, maybe just offering myself, you know.
Yeah.
It's like an opening. Mm, beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marina. Where are you from?
Germany.
Germany.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Pleased to meet
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.
you. Thank you. Okay. Well, Bonnie?
Anyone else have a comment? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Anyone else have a comment or a question? Yes? No? And Marina, is there anything you'd like to wrap up the conversation with? You feel complete?
I really like what Verena said. I think it's a perfect way to end it.
Yes, beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you so much. This was really a lovely conversation once again. And
Thank you.
I appreciate everyone who has come on live to participate in this. And I will remind everyone that the next 3PGC webinar is on April 25th, and it will be with Aaron Turner. So hope to see you then. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Bye.